President Trump officially announcing widespread reciprocal tariffs, at least 10% on practically all goods coming into the United States.
With things like hamburgers, some of the higher fat content from the United States is mixed with lean cuts from Australian beef, and that's how the hamburger mince comes together.
It is a complete reorientation of the global trading system as we've known it.
As Mr. Trump's trade war escalates, so do the odds of a recession.
We're looking at somewhere between a 1.5% and 2.5% drop in the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ. How do you think these countries will respond?
The unilateral action that the Trump administration has taken today against every nation in the world does not come as a surprise. For Australia, these tariffs are not unexpected, but let me be clear. They are totally unwarranted.
For decades, our country has been looted, pillaged, raped, and plundered by nations near and far, both friend and foe alike. This is one of the most important days, in my opinion, in American history.
If ever we needed a punctuation mark, a single day to shake us out of the warm, fuzzy delusion that somehow we were special when it came to America, then today was it.
The administration's tariffs have no basis in logic, and they go against the basis of our two nations partnership. This is not the act of a friend.
I do think this is a bad day for our country, and it's not the treatment that Australians deserve, because we have a very trusted, long-standing and abiding relationship with the United States.
The signs have been coming since long before the current iteration of the Trump presidency. But today we lost any vague hope that maybe the US really is still a reliable strategic ally and trading partner, and that the ominous signs have all just been a bad dream. The domestic political game of whether outcomes could be swayed by any one government or Prime Minister has tended to blur what America First means, not just for Australia, but the world. And they continued today.
I believe that I have the strength of leadership and the experience to be able to stand up and to fight for us, fight for our country, whether it's in relation to our national interests in the trading space, in the national security space or elsewhere. The Prime Minister has been weak and missing in action, and that's why we find ourselves in the position that we're in today.
This unilateral declaration of a change in America's place in the world by President Trump comes amid the heat of our election, but the reverberations will extend far beyond the campaign.
I think this decision certainly lifts the veil on any idea that Australia was going to be exempted or treated differently. Trump has dropped pretty much a bomb on the international financial trading system. It will never be the same again.
The government's response early this morning was clear, setting a new, more in sorrow than anger tone for a new age in which the PM cast Australia as the adult in the room.
It is the American people who will pay the biggest price for these unjustified tariffs. This is why our government will not be seeking to impose reciprocal tariffs. We will not join a race to the bottom that leads to higher prices and slower growth. We will stand up for Australia.
The PM and his senior ministers played upon their achievements in repairing the relationship with China and the region, and the new opportunities these could give us as the world rewrites its trade ties.
For 3 years, my government has been working to make Australia's economy more resilient and our exports more diverse. We've deepened our economic engagement in Northeast Asia, Southeast Asia and India, the fastest growing region of the world in human history.
Clearly the reverberations of this will not only be geo-economic but geostrategic. In all likelihood, this will really strengthen the capacity of the Chinese and the Global South to band together. It will push nations like Indonesia and Malaysia, I think, potentially much closer to China. These are Muslim nations already aggrieved at US policy in Gaza, and it'll mean that I think the world will be more and more sort of shifting into blocks. The US is going to run its own race in the Western Hemisphere, but this is certainly a strategic gift to China at a critical time.
Equally, Donald Trump has given a boost to what has often been Labor's scoffed-upon industry policy agenda, which emphasises domestic manufacturing capacity and removing supply chain vulnerabilities.
Backing local manufacturing with our Future Made in Australia plan. Investing in the skills, technology and energy to make more things here and stand on our own 2 feet.
For his part, and to the horror of some of his colleagues, The opposition leader suggested Australia should try to use our defence ties as a bargaining chip.
We have troops in the north of our country. We have the AUKUS deal. We have the ANZUS Treaty. It is a long and abiding relationship, and the core of an arrangement between us and the United States in resolving this matter will centre around the defence relationship.
It is true that in relative terms we have not been hit as hard as others, facing tariffs of just 10%. But beef is a particularly sore point.
Australia bans, and they're wonderful people and wonderful everything, but they ban American beef.
Overwhelmingly, it is the fear of a descent into a global trade war that worries economists and analysts, and echoes US tariff moves in the 1930s.
The biggest danger, though, is US tariffs, as announced this morning, takes the United States to higher tariff levels than in 1930 when they introduced the Smoot-Hawley tariffs. The retaliation to those tariffs ended up deepening the depression and prolonging the economic depression of the 1930s. So we're in extremely dangerous territory here.
Asia has been particularly hard hit by the Trump tariffs. Data analytics firm Exiger estimates the burden will fall heaviest on China, with Vietnam, Taiwan and Japan also hard hit.
Our trade is very concentrated in our part of the world, Northeast Asia, where we send a lot of minerals and energy, and Southeast Asia too is growing in importance because they're very open and exposed. So that's where repairing the relationship with China diplomatically involved getting Australian goods back into China. That was very important.
This is what we have been focused on over these last 3 years, doing the hard work of building common ground in more diversified partnerships, not just relying on what we've done in the past.
There are signs that quite a lot of countries have already been laying the groundwork for a new world trade order.
Just this week, the foreign ministers of Japan, China and South Korea met and announced they're going to deepen trade relations. Now, they're a fairly economically integrated group, despite the political difficulties, and that's significant that the Trump threat could bring them together closer.
The Trump moves will realign relationships elsewhere too. The government was optimistic today about better outcomes in Europe, where earlier trade talks had stalled.
I'm talking with my European counterpart. We all know what happened the last time we had discussions with the Europeans. I think things have changed, and the opportunity to have further negotiations about a free trade agreement on better terms than have been previously offered now exists, and we should take that opportunity.
The Australian response, I think, has hit the nail on the head. The last thing that we want is for Canberra to get involved in some kind of retaliatory action. That kind of contagion, if it spreads around the world, will likely see the globe tip into a global trading war. That's already going to exacerbate poor economic management in Australia and the question mark over future markets for our commodity exports. So we really need to play this carefully, not see it as a direct alliance issue, and above all sort of stress that Australia is still committed to the multilateral trading system. It's not dead, but it's on life support, and Australia needs to do everything it can with its partners in the region especially to keep giving it life.